Welcome to the talk on the Elfiverse and yielding the future of NFT opportunities. My name is Tina, and I'm head of design at Element Finance. And what Element Finance is a fixed rate and variable market protocol. And to a lot of people here, they're like, what does that mean? What is DeFi? And they're kind of understanding like abstract concepts. So DeFi and kind of how decentralized finance has been utilizing NFTs, we're going to be talking throughout this talk about that and why the DeFi protocols that are embracing NFTs will be at the forefront of the industry and will be have the highest TVL, will be engaging the community the most, and will also be engaging their community to build and fork their smart contracts, their interfaces, and a lot of their resources. So to start off, I'm going to go into the Elfiverse project. So the Elfiverse project was essentially a NFT project that was launched with the launch of our DAO. And these were 10,000 images that were crafted from a library of 200 asset images regenerated from a script. And then, as you can see in the library here, they had a variety of different backgrounds, different assets, and kind of different classes that these identities of these images sat in. And when we launched the DAO, these were issued to each member of the DAO when they were claiming their retroactive airdrop. So why we're kind of going into this experiment is because this holds a lot of importance of how NFTs are utilized by DeFi protocols and what importance they have in the ecosystem. So one thing I wanted to showcase is, like, as the prior speaker said before, 3D designers and designers in general, they weren't really utilized in the DeFi ecosystem. A lot of times, DeFi protocols, the UX and UI is really poor. And one thing that could be capitalized by DeFi protocols is building this imagery and creative ecosystem around your DeFi protocol. So one thing we did for this project is we kind of crafted a lore and a narrative with our DeFi protocol and the community. So, like, as you can see, one of the images here, it's a 3D image of a sea of liquidity. So as a lot of people know, liquidity providers for DeFi protocols are one of the most important types of users. So this was kind of crafting a story behind the DeFi LPs that may be coming to protocols and how their adventure journey is visualized in a gamified state visually. So this was some super cool work that our team did for this project. So let's kind of take a step back before we jump into what financialization of DeFi protocols is right now and go into the history of what NFT financialization has been in the past. So kind of the first intrinsically throughput of NFTs was the actual tokenization of NFTs. And I think that's why, as a community, we always jumped to actually finding this financialization model for NFTs, because inherently it is a token. But the actual first financialization act of NFTs was Beeple's B20 project. And what Beeple's B20 project was a $1.6 million project that was fractionally shared ownership between a group of users. And this was the first time in the NFT space that people had seen fractional ownership and seen it effectively for a large artist, and an artist that has been potentially what we call blue chip, which is like they're very highly recognized in mainstream media. They're loved by the community, as well as the fact that they're kind of supported by the NFT community. So what we saw come out of this very project was a lot of the projects like Fractional Art and Party Round, and a lot of the work that John Palmer, who works with Uniswap, has done with fractionalization, and how we're thinking about fractionalizing NFTs and what the shared ownership of them are. So this kind of spurred the movement of financialization of NFTs and how we look forward. So one thing I wanted to note is I think the problem with how we're looking at NFTs and DeFi right now is because we're looking at it at a mindset with Web 2. So in Web 2, traditionally with advertising models, we saw a lot of web interfaces look at different images as property or real estate. Whereas like Web 3, we have to look beyond that model and think in new innovative ways because we're no longer dealing with that technology. So I think as we go beyond the questions of utility and how NFTs could be used in DeFi as an ecosystem, we have to consider how we're thinking and our lens of perspective. So as I mentioned before, kind of the first step was shared ownership, and this kind of spurred that fractionalization movement that I mentioned prior. But then we have shared access, and this kind of spurred NFT-gated communities and experiences. And I think one of my favorite applications of this is Nouns DAO. So Nouns DAO is a community that has one of the largest NFT treasuries in the whole ecosystem. And this is because they ask their users to pay in ETH, and then they receive these NFTs as governance tokens. So this is a really cool experiment because they've made the most revenue in the NFT ecosystem, and they've done it effectively through this gated experience and community. Another one of my favorites is Friends with Benefits, who utilizes NFTs as gated experiences for parties and concerts and collective events that they have with their community. So this could be looking at NFTs as more of a ticket rather than looking at the traditional pricing model that a lot of DeFi ecosystems are looking at NFTs and establishing an NFT rather than looking at it as like, oh, that's my $75 concert ticket. It's like, oh, this is kind of the pass that I'm going to utilize to get into this event, or like utilize to get into this experience. So now one of my favorite ones is shared actions. So one thing that's really underdeveloped in the community is dynamic traits and rewarding on-chain actions. So what this means, dynamic traits, is the ability to then add traits to an existing NFT. So a lot of NFT projects right now, they think of themselves as NFT projects that have one release, and they either stop there or they move forward with many different releases with images that are not composable or don't relate to the prior releases. So how this changes is dynamic traits allow people to incentivize governance actions or actions in your community if it's using your DeFi protocol, and they allow them to issue traits to their existing NFTs and see their progress, kind of like as we see progress as humans and in our own identity. And the last one is shared identities. So as you saw it kind of at the beginning, a lot of those NFTs look like they're from different classes, the different communities. One of them is like a soldier community, another one's like a mage community, and then like a priest community. We kind of designed them to look like they're from like different ancient classes. So those different types of communities, that can help DeFi protocols kind of establish reputation systems in different sorts of categories for their users. And when you're utilizing a DeFi protocol, you don't think like, oh, I'm just looking at my portfolio balance. You see NFTs that kind of visualize your experience on that DeFi protocol. So how does this fit into the Elfiverse? So to talk about this experiment, it was actually kind of a DAO experiment, and we started it originally to engage the community in a governance launch, and we wanted to give them a sense of ownership. So we were doing a retroactive airdrop for all of our DeFi users across our protocol, and a lot of the times, DeFi protocols, when they do this, it's only the people that are whales or that are putting large amounts of money in the protocol. And we wanted something to give back to the community that any person that deposited from $5 USD to like plus thousands, they could kind of get some shared ownership and see themselves in the community of our DeFi ecosystem at Element Finance. So that's kind of why we are incentivized to do it, and we wanted to show appreciation to them. So one thing we kind of showcased in this is the increase of engagement in Discord forums and our general governance forums. So when the actual launch started, we saw a lot of users that were hyper engaged because they were super excited that they minted, and then after the mint, they could see their Elfie as well as comparing traits with other users. So it's a really cool experiment because we got to see the effects on our governance system, the effects of the identities of our DeFi users, and also the engagement in our general communication channels. So this was kind of one of the interfaces we had, another incredible 3D image that we crafted. And this was where they collectively got to check if they were eligible. And this eligibility would just be like, oh, I'm an Element user, I'm claiming my NFT. And why this is so important is because we set a date for the minting airdrop. So users had to mint or claim their initial governance tokens to become eligible for these NFTs. So within the timeline, we set out a press release that said the first 6,000 people that claim their collective governance tokens become eligible for these NFTs. And what we saw was that 6,000 people in under 72 hours claimed their governance tokens in like a kind of dash to be excited about the NFTs. And then we saw a massive cliff go down, obviously, as the NFTs were not available anymore in claiming their governance tokens. So what this kind of says is that the incentive models that we're using for DAOs and we're using for DeFi protocols are way underutilized. And no longer should we be looking at NFTs solely as a kind of metric for a pricing model, but rather how we can incentivize community members as a whole and how they can see themselves in your community. So possible ideas. So I'm kind of here to basically shill to hackers and other protocols how you can build on our protocol. Our smart contracts were actually open sourced and our interface much, much more recently. And our 4 primary kind of concepts that we're trying to get hackers to build upon are the first one being a staking Elfie feature. So what this kind of is a staking derivative that allows people to submit their Elfies in our existing open source governance contracts. And why that is so cool is because we built in our governance system for our DeFi protocol voting vaults. And what these voting vaults are is someone, when they're trying to vote for a DAO, they have to submit their governance tokens within a time period before the voting period begins. So that prevents people from buying mass tokens and then trying to vote before a huge vote. But what's really cool about this staking Elfie derivative that people could be doing is forming an identity vault. So a lot of the times we see like Uniswap, a lot of the bigger protocols compound, the biggest holders of their governance tokens are investors and VCs. So what could be done with a staking Elfie feature is having a mass amount of community members stake their Elfies and that be equivalent to voting power in this identity vault. So that kind of gives the community back power because they have the ability to kind of vote against people that may be large shareholders in the governance DAO with their voting power. The second is kind of what we went to prior, but it was inspired by Linda Shi, I think, at Scalar Capital, who most recently tweeted out a really great tweet about how we're underutilizing users' on-chain actions and their performance in DAOs to incentivize them to engage more, specifically for DeFi protocols. So what's really cool about the smart contract technology in the DeFi ecosystem right now is there's a smart contract called ERC-998. So what ERC-998 is it's a smart contract that allows you to issue a parent token, and this parent token has then child tokens. So what could be conceptually done is someone issues a parent token that's an NFT, and that parent token is like maybe a photo of me or an Elfie of me, and then I could add child tokens, and what those child tokens would be are like my jacket, my pants, and I can customize my kind of NFT based on the dynamic traits I'm earning. And then another huge thing about this is that it creates a secondary market. So a lot of the times, DeFi protocols think about oh, how can we create financialization right at the conception of these NFTs? But when you do things like this, users who maybe, oh, like, I love her jacket, so I'm gonna be trying to trade for her jacket. Maybe she's listing her jacket on our marketplace, and then maybe I wanna trade my jacket for her jacket. So a lot of these dynamic trades, they're a really cool mechanism that could be built on top of 998 because they allow for a secondary market and they allow for users to engage in these financial actions without your protocol directly participating. So the third one is kind of depositing Elfies for added protocol rewards. So kind of how this is different from staking, this would be for primarily for LPs and users that are liquidity providers for your protocol. And this would kind of give them an opportunity to get added rewards on top of the existing rewards that your protocol gives. So a lot of us know like DeFi protocols as having the like 30,000 APY, and that's a lot of the ones that aren't sustainable. But you could also have NFT features that gives them the ability to see like added NFT rewards when they participate in liquidity providing. So this is another mechanism that could be used to kind of incentivize your community and engage them further. And the last one is building a reputation or voting power system. So what that kind of is I'm just gonna, hold on. What that is a voting power system is traditionally measured by governance tokens. And governance tokens, most of the time, those are gauged by a pricing model. So you buy a token on an exchange, like let's say Uniswap or Compound or any exchange that's a decentralized exchange, or you could do a centralized exchange as well. But these governance tokens, ultimately, in most DAOs that are available in the DeFi ecosystem, that gives you voting power. And why this is significant is because right now in the DeFi ecosystem, we're only gauging voting power by people's wealth. And why that's not a sustainable model is because some of the most engaging members of your community that are on socials, that are in your forums, that are in your Discord, those aren't people that are the whales or that are your investors that have the largest voting power in your reputation system. So establishing a reputation system so that maybe, picture this, you're like a 22-year-old, you're totally broke, you're like just graduating university, and if you're really engaged with, let's say, our protocol or another DeFi protocol, you could start posting in their forum. And with them posting in their forum, you could have your Discord messages or your forum posts tracked by different variables. So like source cred and karma do this data scraping very effectively. And then DAOs can use this to then issue a reputation voting system, different NFTs that have this reputation system, and allow you to have a greater voting power than you would if you could only deposit like $5 to $100 USD on the protocol. So it kind of gives users the ability to take back power from investors that hold a lot of share on these DeFi protocols and participate based on their identity and their usage. So lastly, we open sourced a lot of our contracts, and we also are going to have a call for contributors very soon. So if you're interested in building on the Elfiverse, we will be having an optimistic rewards grant system. So what this means is that you're no longer working for a grant and waiting to have your deliverable met to then receive a grant that you're working on for a project. This would be retroactive, so you could be working on this project and receiving income while you're doing so. So that's going to be open source really soon for Element Finance, so definitely check us out. And feel free to follow me on Twitter or message me if you have any questions.